Are we rolling, Richard? We're missing a couple of people, right? Missing Dale and Johnny Jennings
And Jenna Averett.
and Jenna Averett.
So Jenna is going.
I think she is. Aren't you, Jenna? We want you to go.
Tell her we all want her.
I had this prepared last time and forgot to see who might want to do a devotional. I've got 3 of us down for a devotional. I've got 8 devotionals. These will probably happen at night. Hopefully we can get our guide to find us a room. You know, sometimes they have a conference room because one person's bedroom probably not going to take all of us in.
But we did in Bill and Betty's.
Yeah,
They're quick. The
depends.
devotionals cannot be long because we might be standing in a little hotel room.
But I've got John Stewart down and me and Todd Fincher. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 other slots. And I have suggested a particular Bible passage or subject, but you're not required to do that. You know, something may hit you over there and you thought this would be nice. You can do that as well. You don't have to do a full-blown devotional, but if something hits you, I mean, we'll be talking at night about things that sort of stood out. Tommy, you like to do one?
Okay.
You want me to sign it to you, or you want to
Pick from the. He likes to. And you make the scripture up too.
That does not surprise me. All right, I'm gonna put you down.
Put me down for one, or unless they
Okay,
need me.
I'm gonna put you down then.
Me toward the end.
Put you for the last one. How about that? And I'll
Oh,
put Tommy right
That's
before.
pressure on the last one.
Oh, I'll put Tommy Gregory.
I may trade out. Jenna does really good one too. I may
Got a
trade out
couple
that.
of options. Anybody else interested in a devotional? Jane is? Okay, Jane. Jane, I'm going to put you down for the first one. How about that?
That's good. You'll have a whole plane flight and lots of airport time to think about it.
Talk about it.
I got Norma, didn't I? I get credit for that one.
Good point. Yeah, we've got Norma Sarvis coming our last Saturday night there. I'm going to verify it again with her, but I booked her way on back. That should be interesting. She lives over there and has got a Greenwood connection. Did she graduate with you, John?
Spell her last name, please.
Sarvis, Sarvis, I think.
That wasn't close, John.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, man, he can't spell.
She's Jewish, but she's a Christian who lives in, and she's a Jewish Christian who lives over there. Okay. There's one other slot for a devotional here. We could pick a name out of the hat. Or you,
Todd would probably be.
We already assigned Todd.
Todd's already got one.
Kathy Jennings would be great. Ask all the
I got
Jennings.
the one's not here, Dale.
What about you, Kathy? Kathy, would you do one? Kathy, would you do one?
Put Kathy down. Okay, good deal.
I just want to listen to her voice. It's so kind. To me.
That could either be the one on Armageddon or the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem.
Oh, that'd be
One
fun.
of the
You
two.
could sing for that one.
I've tried to connect these with where we are that day, you know, or and so you talk about it that night,
But
perhaps.
you can come up with your own thing too.
Yeah.
Let the people look
Yeah.
at that sheet before they go, the ones you've assigned it to, so they can see what you
Now,
gave
the
them.
funniest
I'm
one
gonna send
was-
it to them.
Okay.
Who did the
All right.
one when we went, England, Scotland the first time, and who with the bad southern accent? Was it Ruby?
Ruby
or-
Cole and Red and Church that we got into
That
this.
was wonderful.
All those faces in the congregation. Okay, let me just run through a couple things. Y'all, we're going to Masada, and a lot of us don't know the story of Masada. I don't know if y'all remember, but in like the 1980s, it was #1 behind Roots, those big miniseries with the thing. They did a 10-hour miniseries on Masada, and it got spectacular ratings. It won all these awards. I have it, and Johnny has graciously said we could go to their little movie place. Anybody who'd like to see it. Masada will mean more to you if you understand what it means, particularly to the Jews. It was a pretty heroic stance. Anyway, we're talking about getting together at his place, possibly looking at early on next Sunday afternoon, so that they have the movie group watches movies on Sunday night. But we might be looking at about 3 next Sunday, so we'll send out a thing. Johnny's on the way to the ball game, and Rusty texted me. He said, "Great, but we just need to nail down a time. It's 5 hours total, so we might watch the first half of it and then try to watch the next half later. And if you're not available for then it'll be available for you to borrow it and watch it, at some point. But it's worth seeing. Let me just tell you about the sheets I gave you. The baggage information I printed off of Delta because that's what the people who are flying with Colette's tickets are flying with. And a lot of you all may know all this stuff. Most of y'all are seasoned travelers. There are a few who are not. There's no joking around with the government anymore. They're so specific. If they tell you don't have anything over 3.4 ounces liquid in your carry-on bag, they will take it from you. And I remember the Gulledges made the mistake of thinking she was down to the bottom of her hairspray container. It was well under 3.4, but it was an 8-ounce thing in the trash. I mean, you'll lose it. So you can read over this. If you have questions, I'll be glad to talk to you. But some of y'all are flying on different airlines, but the TSA does control all of it. They'll tell them what they can do. As far as your luggage, first class people get 2 bags, so you're not in a jam. Chuck can tell you the perils of going overweight on a bag, because your second bag is $100 if you're flying not first class. So if you go over 1 pound overweight, they're going to charge you for another suitcase. So,
Or you can just take a pound of stuff out and throw it in the trash.
or put it in Rusty's bag, which is what I do. But anyway, just look at
He
those.
didn't have any clothes when we went, so he would've had plenty of them.
Oh, he did forget. We told him
forgot his
he
clothes.
forgot his pants, we said, which in Britain means you forgot your underwear. So I said to some of
Of
my
all
British-
the things you remember on that trip, that's what you remember?
Well, he packed 4 days early, and I was like, I can't believe you're so together. When we get to England, he goes, I don't have any of my pants. I mean, 1 pair. I was like, Mr. So Together. Anyway,
Rusty, that one will stick with you.
one of our English friends, though, delivered us a package of underwear to the hotel the next day because pants and trousers are 2 different things. So anyway,
I didn't wear them either.
you did, he had his own. Okay, the measurements on your suitcases are the same. It's 50-pound limit and it's 62 inches length, width, and height. And if you're like me, by the time you pack it full, it can get, be careful not to go over that. Less is good. You can wear things twice. So anyway, that baggage information is for people who don't travel a lot. You have, supposedly you get 1 quart bag for your carry-on that all your liquids in your carry-on must be. You can take larger liquids in your checked baggage. But it's the carry-on, yes.
I know a secret. If you use a Ziploc or a seal, Ziploc, whatever it is, quart bag, they are smaller than if you go to Target or somewhere and buy a TSA-approved quart bag.
Ah.
You can get more in it because I've seen them and they work fine.
Right.
They hold more than those other.
And in your carry-on, does make sense to put 1 change of clothes because unfortunately luggage does get lost, and you can go back, just 1 whole change of clothes, and any medications that you must have the day when you get there, you need to have in there. So just follow those guidelines because they will throw your stuff out so fast, and it's frustrating if it's something you planned on having for the trip. As far as clothing, y'all, you can wear jeans a couple days. We don't really have that many days. You don't need a clean change of clothes every single day. You can rewear a shirt or wash it out in the sink and hang it in your tub because we're in Jerusalem several nights. So just, you want to leave some room to take home some souvenirs in your suitcase. So that's, the clothes we don't mind seeing you in the same thing. We had one guy who wore the same thing all 10 days. So the time we went, the same outfit. So, you'll be doing better if you just wear it 2 days. I redid this list, and there's some of this was on the list the last time, but if you're like me, you haven't done a lot of it yet. Like called your credit card company to tell them the dates of your travel and where you're going to be. It's also important if you're going through.
You don't have to talk quite as fast.
Oh, is that me? If you're going through Europe via an airport, like you're going to be going through Paris or through Amsterdam, you need to tell your credit card company that as well because when you may have charges for meals at the airport. So just tell them everywhere you're going to be traveling, the dates, or else they will block your credit card charges. So just call them saying, we'll be traveling out of the country and I'll be here, here, and here, and this is the dates. And sometimes I fudge my dates a little longer because you know how someone will enter a charge a day or 2 later. So just extend it a little bit.
Are you going to walk through each of these?
Yeah, but I'm not going to read them all.
Well, I don't trust them all to read it. You see.
But I'm not going to say call credit card company.
That's okay. You don't have to do
know.
that. But this way.
The first thing is you need to call your credit card company. credit, Chuck got the word that banks are not high on your debit cards, particularly in this area of the world. There's a lot of fraud, and the problem is you give access to your bank account in total.
Right. You
If
have
they
no
have-
recourse.
Yes, but, well, you have some recourse, but it would be tough to get it all. But with the credit card, there's all kind of protections. If someone does commit fraud, the credit card company will take that bad debt and deal with it. That's
But
why
if you wanna get cash at an ATM, it has to be a debit card.
it has, or you have to have a
Take
PIN,
your own cash
which is on the
Yeah,
list.
you can use a credit card with a PIN.
Yeah, you can get a PIN for your credit card if you feel like you're gonna get cash, but let me get to that in number 4. So call your credit card company. Set up an international calling plan if you're going to use a cell phone there. If you're on AT&T or Verizon, they have simplified it. It's $10 a day, and it starts the moment you make a call, and then if you don't have any calls on it, it won't start the $10 over. You may only get 3 or 4 $10 charges, but you can text, call the U.S., call each other, you can call us. But then I think C Spire also has one.
Betty, you can also text, you can turn your phone off and text through Wi-Fi.
Use Wi-Fi calling. You turn that up on your phone. So Rusty and I are going to have our phones on so that if you have any emergencies, you could call us, and we'll have also, the hotel. I'm guessing we could call room to room for no issue. We're going to see each other a lot, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So once we get all together, I'm just a little worried about all of us coming in from corners of the earth, because we're coming in different places, and getting everybody there could be a trick, because if you haven't flown in the last few years, it's just a trick. It seems like what can go wrong will go wrong, so just be ready to be patient and persuasive with the people at the air desk. So anyway, call your credit card company. Rusty's and my cell numbers are on there. We'll put those in an email prior to departure again. Contact your health insurance company just to let them know you're going to be out of the country. Some companies like to issue another card, or at least note that, so that if you were, you can fall and break a leg. People have done it on these trips. And then our trip insurance, though, also covers medical evacuation if you had to get flown home if something happened. But you want to call your medical insurance and just know where you stand
Let me
with
say
that.
a word about that. We've led several trips before, and there's something about Americans when we go on a trip like this. The 2 things happen. Everybody looks for Betty and me to tell them everything to do, and also the other guide. Okay, but if you step out in front of a car, I don't care what country you're in. Don't think because I'm on foreign soil here,
You got smarter.
the rules don't work. But you see what I'm saying? You mark my word. We're like lemmings. Okay, we just sort of follow. But just because the first person steps out in that street doesn't necessarily mean you want to look both ways.
Once we're in Israel,
Okay.
our guide will pretty much dictate that, which is good, because they know more than all the rest of us. The 4th one I did put about taking cash, and this is where they take American dollars at almost, well, we didn't find a single vendor that didn't. On the street, there's lots of street vendors, places to buy olive wood figurines or little nativity sets or nice nativity sets or whatever, and they will take American dollars. You want to take small denominations, like what Jim Phillips said they tell everybody in their group to do is to take about $400 cash in 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s, and don't pull out the whole wad of it every time you're going to pay with something. Pull out like you're a person with $3 in your pocket, and you will need to save some of that. I wrote it at the end, and they gave us their suggested gratuities. They kind of expect you to have gratuity for the bus driver, our tour guide, and $2 to $3 per night for your hotel staff. And that's where you use American dollars for that. So about 100 of your 400 would be going toward the gratuities that are going to be along there. The suggested amounts they give are at the bottom of that money.
Do any of you enjoy bartering on the street for various and sundry merchandise?
Well, it's expected.
It was invented over there.
Yeah. So just don't pull out your whole wad of bills, or you're losing your traction on the bartering. Okay. You got to play it like really poor. Okay. The weather in Israel. Catherine Pittman just said someone went in October and they were hot. It could be cool. It won't be freezing cold. We did have a snowstorm the end of about this time when we went that one time, but it was the 100-year snowstorm, they said. And global warming has happened a little bit since then, so we should be okay. But you need to pack layers. Most of y'all have access to looking up the weather. I have Jerusalem now on my weather.com, just kind of pulling it up. Jerusalem is 2,900 feet, so it's always cooler than the rest of Israel. Like the Dead Sea is the lowest point on the earth, isn't that right? So the temperature can be 25 or 30 degrees difference from Jerusalem, the Mount of Jerusalem down there. So you're going to need to have layers so that you can take stuff off or put stuff on. And comfortable shoes, don't think cute. Cobblestones are really hard enough to walk on with good, comfortable, sound shoes. So, you probably will need 2 pairs of shoes though, because if it rains, you'll have a wet pair one day. But check that weather. Probably when we send out a final email before we go, we'll attach what we've seen as the next 10 days of the weather, but that can change. An umbrella is okay as long as you take a little tiny one, because you just don't want to take up a lot of room in your luggage. Some people find it's easier to take a hood that can tie or a rain hat and then just not have to mess with carrying an umbrella. That's just a personal preference.
Debbie,
Yes.
most places can we carry a backpack or not?
Gosh, they've gotten tricky in England this last time. I don't know about a backpack with you, as long as it's not huge. I think what makes people nervous all over the world now is people who seem to be carrying a lot of stuff with them for the day. I'm certain we can carry like a backpack. How they have purses, they're kind of the size of if you want to do that instead of a purse, be fine.
I carried mine. I leave it on the bus when we go to see that particular site. You see.
So he's just,
Leave on the bus then?
Yeah.
oh yeah, it's safe to leave on the bus. Bill.
Will there be any place that we go where the men will need to cover their heads?
There was for us back, it's very relaxed compared to when we went in 82 and then you went again in 95 or 96.
If we go into a synagogue,
Some of them slipped away on a Sunday morning and just went to a local, we weren't going, they went real early.
A drawer full of yarmulkes,
I got one.
Jewish weddings, I thought I'd bring one.
Oh, you might have bring a couple. But a hat's not a bad idea, just because it could rain too. I followed Jim Phillips' trip, which was the exact same dates last year this time, and of their trip, about 3 days it rained, which is kind of the 20 to 25% of February are rainy days. So I just looked that up, and that's kind of what it is. So you just want to be prepared and know that we're going to go right on. So you need to be comfortable enough to keep going. For those flying on Colette's air package, they said we will need to be at the airport 3 hours early. That is what they suggest for international flights. You and I know that in the Memphis airport, that's not particularly necessary. But they're gonna pick us up probably here about 5 hours prior to our departure. For those going on that, I have our flight schedule. Y'all have your own flight schedules. You can look at that. Any questions about that? We'll meet at the church, probably have the bus park right there in that lane by the sanctuary, so it's not messing up the school that morning, because it'll be somewhere between 9 and 9:45 that we'll leave for our 2:45 departure to Atlanta, New York, and Israel.
Yeah, there are 13 people riding on that bus going to Memphis. Everybody else, you sort of on your own.
Different schedules and
You'll mention that at the end about when this thing all starts. Hopefully, we're all there at the same time when it's time to have our orientation meeting the first night, and then supper.
I've already been over number 7, which is basically most of y'all are seasoned travelers. You know how to comply with the rules, but what we learned on the trip the last time we went is, depending on what country you are in or who the particular person that's checking you in is and what their personality is like, they can get more strict than it said. They can apply the letter of the law. In a way, Catherine Pittman had a carry-on that was fine going over, and they almost didn't let her go home with it. So when I read today, it said, if you can, get what you need, but stay as small as you can. Don't be pushing the limit and hoping they're not going to say anything. Pack in your suitcase. It doesn't need to weigh 40 pounds on this side of the ocean, because you're going to put stuff in it.
Will there be opportunities to launder clothes?
The only laundering we've ever done on these kind of trips is to take little Tide packs that you can buy and just wash in the sink and hang them in the tub and toilet. I am certain laundry facilities are at a hotel and you can pay them. There's a gym at our hotel in Tel Aviv.
I saw dry clean, I don't remember seeing it.
It's the hitch is just the timing of when you need it clean, and if we're gonna be there a couple, days, that would, but they do have that service available. I find it easier just to launder a few things and hang them on the racks in my bathroom, and they're usually dry by the time you get back at the end of the day, So,
And as far as anything formal, we don't need any formal.
you don't, I mean, he will take one jacket, won't you take one suit coat, just, I know some of you are not planning on it. I don't think they don't need it necessarily, there's not any restaurants that it'd be required. As long as you've got a jacket that you're gonna wear for when you're cool or wet, that would be good.
Katie, if on like our England trip, there really wasn't time at the end of the day to even go change for dinner, you wore the same thing all day.
Exactly. So you wanna be comfortable and, just have everything you need at the beginning of each day. And that's, Rusty was right, you can take a good bit of stuff on the bus with you, and just not take it into each site, because he takes like books and things that he's kind of reading ahead and might tell us some stuff ahead of that. Upon our arrival, the first night of our trip, at 6 p.m., there's a welcome meeting that those of us who get picked up by Colette's travel person at the airport, they'll tell us, you're gonna meet in this room, or we're gonna meet in this corner of the dining room, or whatever. We will let the rest of you know. And to that end, I brought a sheet that I wanted, if you're gonna have at least one phone per couple activated, or if you've got a cell phone that's gonna be activated, I want you to write your number in the cell phone, and I'll put them together in a group text, so that if we had something that needed to be changed, we can send it out to you. Once we're together that first night, I think it should be pretty easy, but that first night could be a little harried, because, we saw what happened to our mission trip group yesterday, it doesn't always go like you planned. So I've got this cell phone sheet. If you know which of your phones, or if you're gonna turn them both on, you just gotta talk to your company and see what you're willing to spend. Then I had the flight schedule for the travelers with Colette, and I had the baggage information for people who aren't real familiar with it. We'll send out one final email just with kind of last minute things. On that last number on here, I did put the address of our airport in Tel Aviv, which would be for you all who are getting to the airport yourselves. It's that, I don't know how you say, Kafar Maccabea or Maccabiah Hotel, but I've got the address of it if you needed to give it to a cab.
I think I know several of us have a transfer, so they're picking us up at the airport.
Then you're already set, exactly. And those, anybody who's arriving together, y'all can have arranged that together. But I did put the address here just in case you end up a little lost person standing by two guys with a machine gun in the airport of Ben Gurion. I mean, it's a little daunting, so you just want to know where you're going.
I think maybe I mentioned that, all the men serve 3 years in the military after high school. All the women serve 2 years. And so you'll see people hanging around or on a bus, with automatic weapons, dressed in military fatigues. Security is a big deal over there, and it is in this airport, in Tel Aviv Airport. I've never seen anything quite like it.
No joking around about bombs and things.
They took everything out of my suitcase. Everything. They're going, and they've got cameras, and they got people looking, and you can tell they don't have a sense of humor. They are
point, they
serious about
We've
that.
double checked everybody's names. I hope you want to just make sure that your plane ticket matches your passport.
I looked at mine last night by I didn't have my middle name on there.
So what'd you do?
And of course, it's on my passport, so I sort of flipped out. Got on the phone with Delta and they fixed it.
Right, just double check that, because with us not having all that information on not knowing what your ticket is, if you didn't ticket with us, check it. It's just, it used to be if you didn't have a middle name, or you just had a middle initial and you had the middle name, they are just really sticklers for it now, so double check that. If,
Betty, is our itinerary with, hotel, contact dates and everything in an email that we could send to the family?
there is, I think I read something, there's an itinerary sheet that's gonna have a Colette number that they could contact. The truth is, they could call your cell or Rusty's and my cell. And I'll get an itinerary sheet that will be attached in an email going out to you that you can then attach to your family members so they can know where you're gonna be. Okay?
That original brochure has the
It has it in
itinerary.
there. But she's saying, how do you get it to your family? You can't mail this brochure to everybody.
That's an
It has.
email yesterday.
February
with
fourth,
itinerary.
it has
Did they? They did not send it to us.
That's what that is.
Okay, Okay, Larry Crawford said Colette sent an email yesterday with the itinerary in it. I will attach any of that stuff, you know, I know how it is, cause I've gotten so many different emails on it, and we'll just make sure, even if it's a duplicate, that you have that prior to leaving. Okay, the other thing is, anybody taking an iPad or a small computer or anything, we have Wi-Fi. They have to be separate from your carry-on just to go through security. And they may ask you to turn it on, so make sure it's charged, because what they wanna make sure it's not a box that is being used, you know, they want to show that you've got your grandchildren on the front of it, you know, it turns on. So just, I take it, and cause I need it for business, but, just know that they're going to they're gonna check it out.
So, so there's Wi-Fi in the rooms, obviously.
There's Wi-Fi in all 3 of our hotels. We don't know, Nancy had checked, we know 2 of them have hair dryers, we're not confident of the 3rd one.
That's Tiberius, I mean, that's Tel Aviv, the first, only one night, so.
Oh, is the one that we're not confident they have it? It looks like it does to me, just from the kind of style of travel it is.
I looked for an iron, but I didn't see an iron anywhere.
We won't care if they're wrinkled. That's one other thing is converting your electrical. I had ordered from Amazon on New Year's Eve, and 2-day Prime, it did not show at my house this week. Just getting something to bring to you. But Catherine Pittman had one. Elizabeth has something.
You can get them at Walmart.
You can get, and just make sure it's checked for Israel. You know, there's a difference in an adapter and a conversion one. And most of the appliances we use are small enough and they draw low enough that you don't need a converter, but all bets are off. You can ruin something sometime. I just get the adapter. I had the converter the year we lived in England, but it's an extra $30 or $40. Your iPhone and iPad, your little cord will convert it. It's a different current or whatever, but it will convert it.
Is that right? I mean, let me ask that again. You're saying that and I have both. I have a thing that converts the current, and then you plug the right.
The one that has the right prong heads.
Yeah, into it. And so if it's 220 in Israel, you know, and all my stuff is 110, it changes. What I heard you say though is I don't need the part that converts it. I can just stick the.
No, what you need to hear me say is I don't know what I'm talking about. First of all, because I mean, you know, there's no rhyme or reason to every trip. You know, somebody will have one curling iron burn up. You know, and there's no. We all had the same
things that take
converters.
A lot of current, that's very possible, but things that don't take like a charger or
An iPhone, they just don't draw a lot of current.
That's right.
So if you decide to take a little travel hairdryer for fear that, you know, the one doesn't work or whatever in your room, take something that you don't care a lot about, you know, because, I mean, I've never had any of mine blow up, but I've had people with us that it did. And not blow up, just stop working. Or start to smell and you unplug it and, yeah. But it's not like you're having an episode in your room where they're bringing in the bomb team or anything. But anyway, Amazon has them and all you need to do is put in, you know, travel adapter for Israel. And you can look at the choices and I'll read the reviews. Someone will say, this one didn't work or something, but,
That's one good thing about Amazon.
yeah, you can read those reviews. So that's the kind of just,
One other thing,
okay.
just as a reminder for all of us who ran over the country to get TSA Craig, it was shut down for them for the mission trip coming back. The TSA Craig.
to go through quickly.
Yeah.
Don't you have to pay for that every year though, the TSA
No,
free?
it's 5 years.
Yeah, it's
It's
5
$80
years,
for
85,
5
yeah.
years.
for
Oh, I thought it was every year, which may be,
It's because
but with the government shut down, it's not available. I mean, it'll probably be open
Oh,
back
the
up.
government shutdown's what did that. I
So-
see.
And, yeah, so, you know,
Google Translate's a good app, yeah, in case you get in trouble needing to talk.
though English is one of the official languages in Israel, so you won't have trouble particularly with language there. You may have trouble if you're coming through Paris or if you're going through Amsterdam, which some of us are doing. But you shouldn't have any trouble. The language is just not an issue. It's a British accent English is pretty much what they have in Israel, or a Russian accented English, or you know, wherever they've immigrated from. You get a little bit of that. So.
we just have Atlanta and New York.
Yeah, there's a different accent there too.
Oh, we'll never see our luggage again.
Yeah.
We'll be like Russ.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. You know, we did get added to the trip, the going underground there at the Western Wall down to the first century street, which is pretty cool because that's when Jesus was around. I'm hoping that we can get worked out this Yad Vashem visit. That's the Jewish Holocaust Museum. It's not in here now.
They haven't been particularly helpful. You know, the government dictates the time slots and these trips. It's not as easy as going to other places where you kind of tailor your own trip. They're given the times and when you.
But I'm hoping on the last day, on the way to the airport, we can talk to our guide, and if they don't have access to that need that bus, I'm hoping that we can go by there. For those of you who would like to see it, I've missed it twice, and I would like to see it over there. Let's see. Oh, I had some questions I was going to ask. They're kind of minute questions. You may not get any of these. I don't know, but I wanted to see if you're reading anything of the stuff we've put together. Tell me this about Israel is about 1/3, 1/2, or 1/4 the size of Mississippi.
Friends, I just read that.
It's about half. It's about half the size
800,000 people.
of Mississippi. I'm coming to that. No, that would be Jerusalem. Probably is 800,000 people. What is the Knesset?
It's like their Congress.
It's their legislature, their Congress. What's Israel's national tree? Olive tree.
Oh, I was thinking almonds. Well, they were all blooming when we were there. It's real pretty.
It's an olive tree. You know, Old Testament talks about Israel as an olive tree, and you'll see these things in the Garden of Gethsemane. They're huge.
Well, aren't they like maybe 3,000?
They can be. They can
The
be.
center part of the trunk dies. and
But
they
it
put out
always is
new-
putting out these roots, and so the bottom of the thing is 6-8 feet around. They're not very tall necessarily, but it's a good image for Israel because the Jewish people have been here 5,000 years. You can't kill them off. People have tried, but they just keep putting out roots, you know, and keep coming back.
The stump from Jesse.
How many people live in Israel altogether?
Well, I thought it said
8 what?
8 million.
8.8 million. That's right.
Yes.
It's not that many. How many Jews of the 8.8 million?
Oh, no, I didn't get down that far.
About 6.2 million. There are about 3 times as many Jews worldwide as actually live in Israel. You know, we got more Jews in America than actually live in that country. What are the official national languages?
English.
Hebrew.
Arabic.
Hebrew and Arabic.
No,
They don't make English.
But all they
and
do,
of-
all their international.
They do, but they haven't said it's an official language. All right. What percentage of Jews in Israel identify themselves as religious Jews? Low percent. 13%. That blows my mind. I mean, they've got as big a problem as we have here of people claiming to be Christians, but they don't show up for Sunday school or church or Easter or Christmas. They've got the same dynamic over there. 49% of people in Israel self-identify as secular. They're saying, we're secular Jews. We're here for Israel. We are Zionists. We're here for the political state of Israel. We don't really have much to do with the religious side of things, which is just amazing to me. What percentage of the population in Israel is Muslim? Wouldn't expect you to know that. I'm just getting you to think about the place. About 18% there. What percent are Christians?
3% or 2%.
2%. Yeah. That means in Bethlehem, where Jesus was born, it's a Palestinian city now. It's only a couple percentage of Christians. I mean, it's possible at some point that there might not be any Christians there.
And that's
in-
one thing you
in
mentioned.
there.
There's cities that you go to that are basically Palestinian or Jewish. They tend to not, I mean, Jerusalem has all three populations strong within it, but a lot of towns identify with one of the major religions, world religions.
What's the literacy rate in that country?
No,
Really high, 98%. Very high indeed. What Jew lived about 1800 BC? Trying to get you acclimated a little bit to a timeline. What Jew lived about
Give us a sense.
1800 BC? Abraham. Right. He was the first Jew. He was an ordinary garden variety Babylonian until God calls him, you see, in Genesis 12, and he becomes the first patriarch, you see, the first Jew. What famous Jew lived about 1295 BC?
David?
No, that'd be Moses. Exodus is a good number for Exodus is about 1295 BC. The number for David is about 1000 BC. Okay. Another historical date, those of you who took Bethel might remember this. The northern kingdom of Israel was destroyed by the Assyrians in what year? You get an A if you get this right as a Bethel student.
What's the question?
600 something?
It's
733.
That's close. 722. 722 BC. 722 BC. And so that wiped out the whole 10 tribes. You know, they never really came back after that. It left 2 tribes in the south, Judah.
And Benjamin.
What's that?
The other tribe was Benjamin, I believe.
That's right, it was. And the southern kingdom got destroyed by the Babylonians in what year? Anybody remember that? 586 or 87. That's right. You see it different places. 587 BC.
She's got the stuff in her notebook.
Don't be. You're cheating. You're cheating. She's looking
gave
at.
it to her?
She's looking at the
You gave out
guide.
Gave the sheet out to us, buddy.
Well, I know that, but all right.
Doing good finding them.
All right. A good date for Jesus. The birth of Jesus is about 4 BC. 4 BC. That's because the Gregorian calendar changed. Somebody made a mathematical error, and somebody realized it centuries and centuries later, and so now the best date for the birth of Jesus is about 4 BC. When did Titus and the Roman legions destroy the temple? Never been built back since then either. I mean, all use,
13 AD or
huh?
13 AD?
No,
it's 30 AD.
about 70 AD. Jesus dies in 30 AD. And then they destroy it, and all that's left, and you'll see that's what the Western Wall is. Western Wall is simply a big box, a part of a box that is the foundation for the temple, and it's got a mosque up there now and another building, but it's controlled by the Muslims at this particular point.
You don't need a yarmulke to go to the Western Wall.
Bill has a drawer full.
Yeah.
They're good for ball spots too at the sun.
Lynn and I are interested in going to this Temple Institute nearby over there because there's a group of people in Israel that envision the temple being rebuilt. You see, they think that's got to happen before the Messiah comes. But the only place to build that temple is on top of that mount.
Top of the rock.
And it's controlled by the Muslims. And you're looking at World War III to tear down those buildings and put the temple back. I read a long time ago. I mean, there's only certain instruments that can be used in that temple, and it would have to all be reconsecrated, rededicated, and you have to have a red heifer to be killed
Well, somewhere
for
in
that.
Arkansas, they're raising red heifers.
Well,
just for that.
somebody's in Mississippi as well, and that's what they were doing it for, is in preparation for the rebuilding. Now, we hope they don't get real interested in that while we're over there.
At least in the next month.
Right.
Yeah, one of the places that I remember that was lasting was that when you're on the Garden of Gethsemane, you look back where they filled in the gate. There's a gate in the Bible that they predicted that the Messiah would return, and so the Jews have filled in that gate.
No, not the Jews.
No, the Jews
The
did.
Muslims did.
Oh, the Muslims did it.
Yeah, it's
You
the,
can see it when you're in the Garden of Gethsemane. It's kind of like, yeah, that'll keep him in.
it's the gate Jesus would have come through on Palm Sunday. He would have ridden that donkey through that particular gate. And when the Muslims got control of Jerusalem, they bricked it all in, and then they built a cemetery outside of it, because an Orthodox Jew, you're unclean if you go through the cemetery, you see. And so
So the Muslims there believe in Jesus, but the Jews don't.
in a matter of speaking, yeah. I mean, Jesus is mentioned in the Quran, but they still don't see him as the Son of God. They see him as a prophet. But yeah, they believe in him in that sense. Masada happens about what time? Well, the temple gets destroyed in 70 A.D. Masada's in 73. A lot of those Jews leave Jerusalem. This is their last stand. Masada sits on this mountain.
It's like a
Where did I
basic
see
kind
that? Yeah, this one. There it is. It sits on this mountain up here, and the Dead Sea. You can see the Dead Sea across the way, and then you can also see where the Roman fort is down there. I mean, been there since the 1st century, since 73 A.D. And then you can see also the ramp that they make slaves and Roman soldiers build, and they're going to push these fortification works up there and eventually break in to this mountain complex. Israel still, what do you call it, commissions their Green Beret type soldiers up there in that place. When did Islam come into being? About 662. No, it's 600 years after Jesus. Okay, so for the Muslims, they claim their scriptures are later, and it's true. You got old Jewish scriptures in the Old Testament, then you got Christian scriptures, around 30 A.D. all the way to 100 A.D., and then you got 600 A.D. got Muslim scriptures. Since theirs is the last and the newest, what they say is their scriptures correct the errors in the Old Testament and the New Testament. In their story,
What do the Mormons say?
no,
Since theirs are 1800.
in the Quran, they tell the story of Abraham not sacrificing Isaac, but sacrificing Ishmael. You see, Ishmael becomes the father of the Arabic people, and so that story is changed for them. Now, how about the Crusades? You got a number for the Crusades? Because we'll see places where there were Crusader towns and Crusader churches. That's right, 1100 A.D. And I still remember this Roman Catholic priest over there saying, for people in the Middle East, the Crusades are like the day before yesterday. And that's 1100 A.D. They have long memories over there, and it's hard to get past the past. I got something I want to share with you about that in a minute. What year was Israel established as a nation? 1948. 1948. That's an important day for them. They have wars in 67 and 73. Name me a few countries that Jews have been expelled from in their history.
Germany.
Well, they weren't.
Well, they killed them there.
They killed them there. They didn't exactly expel them. England and Spain and Italy. Yeah, they killed a bunch of them in Russia.
There's some great documentaries. A couple of y'all gave us things, and I have not printed a sheet up about that. But if you go on Amazon Prime, if you have that video, or Netflix, and put in Israel or the Holy Land, there's some really wonderful documentaries if you're a history buff. He could just watch that all day, every day. But there are things to watch like that you'd enjoy. Even the British blockade of the Jews coming into Israel, it's really amazing.
Yeah, they had a boatload of Jews on these old ships. After World War II, they were trying to get to Israel, okay? But the British still control that, and they blockaded them away, made them go to other countries. Some of those things got sunk, you know.
What's the name of that day too?
I don't know, it was really something I never
Name of
knew.
the ship or something.
It was.
What was it called?
I don't remember the name of it. I'm getting where I can't remember stuff like I used to remember. You
Don't
know?
feel bad.
I always thought that the glasses, getting reading glasses, wasn't going to happen to me. And I thought, well, losing my memory is not going to happen to me. But you know what? I was wrong about both of those. I was dead wrong about that. Here's a. I hope you will take something. I wrote a little, left you a little bit of space in my day-to-day commentary and itinerary so you can do some diary work. But I encourage you to do that. If you don't, we're older. You see, I can't remember this, and it was just 25 years ago. But if we're starting out 25 years older than that, you're going to have to write stuff down if you're going to want to remember, and it might be something your kids or grandchildren might be interested in also. But something I wrote down 25 years ago. Well, first of all, this guy who's lecturing us says he gets up there and he says, "Now where do I begin?" He says, I feel like the mosquito at the nudist colony." Where do I begin? I just never heard that before. Well, anyway, what he was talking about initially was the role. I wrote that down. It was the role of memory. The role of memory over there. You know, Americans are not as good at memory as they were in ancient times. We've got all kinds of people who don't know much about the Civil War or World War II or Vietnam. Got a bunch of black kids not sure who Martin Luther King Jr. was, you know, which is kind of sad. But if you over there, the problem is the past cannibalizes the present and the future. You've got thousands of years of history. You know, over in Vicksburg, the Civil War can cannibalize the past. They got a great, huge memorial park over there. 1 million people a year come to that thing. It's really phenomenal. But Vicksburg got stuck back in the Civil War for a while. Yeah, they didn't celebrate 4th of July. Eisenhower came to celebrate 4th of July, and they finally said, well, because Vicksburg fell, you see, on the 4th of July, about 1863, and so they said, well, since the president's coming, I guess we're going to have a July 4th celebration. That's what happened. But over there, they are trapped by the past, this guy said. It's hard to imagine the future because they are burdened by selective memory. That's a problem for all of us, isn't it? It's a problem for Southerners, black and white. Greenwood is burdened by selective memory. But that's just a small illustration of what it's like over there, because they've got hundreds and thousands of years of history. I mean, it is a complex place. It's fascinating, but it's terribly complex over there. And what he said was the past frustrates the future. Think about that. That's part of Mississippi's issue, isn't it? The past frustrates the future.
Yeah, but on the other side of that coin, if you don't remember the past, you tend to repeat it, or you could
Sure,
repeat it. So
sure.
that's not all bad.
It's not. No, I'm not trying to say it's all bad. I'm just saying there's got to be a balance if we're going to live in the present and also in the future, and not just have the past burden us
Like
down.
the sermon last weekend.
Yeah. But you can see in a place where the Crusades are like the day before yesterday, if 1100 AD is the day before yesterday, how in the world can you move positively into a future? over there. It's very, very complex. But that's one of the fascinating things about Israel to me. I don't have one other quote I wanted to share, and this comes from David Steele. He was a Presbyterian minister, and he says, if you ever have the slightest possibility of visiting the Holy Land, grab it with both hands, for it will drive home to you the truth that Christianity is not a system of ideas, not even a system of theology. It is a series of events, of acts of God, culminating in the act of God, which is Christ. One of the significant, important things that happens to people who get to go to the Middle East and to Israel is, you can read the Bible almost like a fantasy book or a book of legends, okay? But once you get over there and you see it, then you start thinking, well, maybe this stuff really did happen. It's not just a story.
And when you read the Bible, you'll never read the Sermon on the Mount or the Beatitudes without seeing the view of the slope down to the Sea of Galilee.
Yeah, there's a great
Imagine
picture.
what it would be like for Jesus and the disciples. It feels like you could blink your eyes and they would come over the hillside.
I just read a book, Meeting God in Holy Places, and it takes all these different places that we're going in more, and then takes the Bible passages, and it's really a great.
Why aren't you doing a devotional?
Yeah.
I wish I had said that. Because it's all filled up, there are no more places. We don't have to
It's
say.
because he's bashful. David.
I'm bashful, that's right.
Looking in the wrong book. There's a if you're interested in some of those pictures, they're in this book, but I can't find the one I wanted. That's one of the prettiest places to me. Is there's a church, Roman Catholic chapel up there on the edge of the Sea of Galilee, and this is where they think Jesus probably preached the Sermon on the Mount, greatest sermon ever been preached in the history of mankind. And the chapel is octagonal. Why would you think they would make the chapel octagonal? There are 8 Beatitudes of Jesus, you see.
It's got
And
a great mosaic.
each one of them is going to be featured as you go around. There are 8 sides to most baptismal fonts, including the one here. You know why that is? Just throw that in for today. Y'all been going to that church? Floyd Melton, you've been going to that church your whole life? Do you know why it's an octagonal baptismal font? But that begs the question, why did they make it that way?
Go ahead and give us
Why did they make it? What number is significant? Well, Jews were circumcised on the 8th day. You see, 8th day means, well, creation stopped at 7. 8 must be a new creation. You see, and if circumcision was the way in which you entered the Jewish community, then baptism is the way you enter the Christian community. So there's always been this connection between circumcision and baptism, between Judaism and Christianity. I didn't quite finish his quote there. It is a happening which happened there and then, and to touch even for a few days that place and feel that his feet trod there, to realize that there he was born. Here he lived what he taught. Here he died and rose again, imperishably, alive forever in his spirit. That quickens the faith. That helps us to realize his reality and renews our worship of him. I hope a lot of that kind of thing will happen over there for all of us, because this is it's not just a trip to go see someplace. It is more of a pilgrimage, to see where Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and the prophets and Jerusalem and Jesus and his disciples and Paul. It's a fascinating place. We look forward to going with each of you. All right.
I hate to.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're better than I in that. But the other thing I was going to say is we said this on our England and Scotland trip. One of the things that's a real plus is this is such a great group, and and we will enjoy, I called it the rolling dinner party, our trip to England. I mean, every evening we enjoyed getting together and sharing a meal and talking about the day or what we'd seen. So try to sit with different people. Don't sit, because they tended to do 4 people tables, my memory was. But it's nice to move around and visit with different people on the trip.
Yeah, don't make me sit with my sister-in-law Jenna every
Jenna, I'm
meal.
sorry. No, it is fun to enjoy each other, and we're really blessed with such a fun, congenial group. And some of you know each other better than others, and so it'd be fun, to get that chance to move around. The one other thing I need to warn you about, because this is something over which we have no control. The country of Israel requires that they run us all through a jewelry store. I don't know if you know that Israel is famous for its diamond import business. It's almost like they hold you hostage for an hour or two in a jewelry store at some point.
Well, somebody's getting paid. I'm sure there's
It is,
bus drivers and people are
And
getting paid in
I
this
pulled out of my
process.
jewelry box some things that Daddy bought Mama there. But one of the things, there are some great things you could get there. But one of the things, do you know what a Jerusalem cross is? Does anybody have one of those? It's the cross that then has 4 little crosses in each of the corners. You ever seen one of those crosses like that? Because it's supposed to mean that it's supposed to reflect that when Jesus says people will come from north, south, east, and west. It brings the world together in the cross. And they do have those there. Their prices are not inexpensive, but it's sometimes it's really nice to take a piece. But I also have sat in the jewelry store on a bench waiting for them to let us through. So just know that's going to happen. But we want to enjoy each other's company. We want you to get some rest, and don't be surprised if you feel like you stood a day or two somewhere and you could have closed your eyes and opened them to see your Lord. I mean, it really does happen. Not when you expect it, but it will happen, and it's so worth the trip. And you'll never read the Bible the same way again. So it's a privilege to get to do it with people that we love so much, to a place where our Savior is. So we're excited about it.
Anybody else have a question or comment?
Go back one more time about a real big backpack. Okay to take it if we leave it on the bus.
Yeah, but I mean, if you carry, I mean, I carry mine, but I've got to make it meet the limitations. Some years I've put it inside a carry-on, and then taken it out and filled it up with stuff I wanted. But
Your luggage restrictions are 1 personal item, which is a purse or a backpack, a carry-on that has to meet restrictions that are on this sheet, that has to be able to fit in the overhead. They like your personal item to fit under a seat, so that's one of your criterion. And then your suitcase. You get 2 suitcases in first class, and a lot of y'all are flying first class. You may want to take a collapsible duffel in your suitcase that you then could, because you get 2 suitcases if you're flying first class, that you could bring back. Douglas Taylor still has the first nativity set. We bought one there, and her children Jenny loved playing with it this Christmas, the olive wood nativity. It's kind of a fun thing. I have the one that my grandparents bought in 1909 when they took the first Queen Elizabeth over, and they went to the Holy Land prior to World War I.
a lot of people buy those in
But I have a beautiful one.
Bethlehem. Got a
Yeah.
lot of olive wood around there, and they've got carvers,
It's
and they're probably
worth dealing
75
with it,
stores.
even if you have to mail it home. But also, if you're flying first class, take a collapsible something, put all your dirty clothes in it, and wrap your nativity up carefully in your other bag. Just saying. The shop.
Measuring allow for wheels and hardware too, because like you drop this thing in a thing.
They get picky.
We
You're
were in
right.
Amsterdam, and I thought we were getting ready to have to get a sawzall to cut the wheels. And Chicago was adamant about it.
No.
Well, they also, even if it meets the requirements, if they're full and overpacked, they'll make you check it at the gate.
We were in Edinburgh with both of our suitcases open, passing them back and making them weigh them again. Because, one of them, and it was just, and finally the guy said, okay, just go on. He was tired of us, trying to make it work out.
No one else I was the only one, so they were
And what was,
like
and what was so bad is I bought half of England. He didn't buy anything but 2 towels for his sister.
Yeah.
Now, how did he go from 50 pounds here with 2 little towels to be overweight?
I had a bunch of tea for one thing that we bought in the grocery store.
Oh, because you and I had that fun trip to the grocery store, yeah.
Let me encourage you to be doing some walking. It hadn't been very good weather to do some walking. I've seen some of you walking. I saw Ann and Tony is
Imagine that.
she was going to get her some French fries. What she was doing. She was running to get French fries.
Yeah.
I know.
Do you have to have a dress? Do ladies have to?
You do not anymore. I mean, I did in '82, but it's not required. Jeans you can wear. You just, and the main thing, their biggest thing is not sleeveless and shorts, which is 7 or 8 months of the year. It's so hot. That's not going to be our issue.
You don't have to wear a dress to some of the churches?
You don't have to. If you wanted to take a maxi for comfort, you could, just tights, but you do not have to have it.
Betty, are we going to any kind of church service? Do I need a dress?
There are not a lot of churches there, truthfully. They're Greek Orthodox. We will do our own worship service, particularly at the end.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping we could work that out. We can talk to them, but I think we're on the road. But it may be that there's a place we can
could
do.
stop.
They haven't, over there, guys like Betty and I, we're not in control. It's the official guides in the country
government, and
that are
They have given us
controlling things.
every 15-minute schedule of where we'll be and what we'll do. Rusty and me, they've given us, it's very specific because what they have to do is control. They have 300,000 tourists a
can't have
week
that many.
there, and so they have to control who arrives at which site, at what time. There's just all kinds of things that they're doing.
So there would be no need to take a dress.
There really is no need to take a dress unless it's lighter weight, and it would.
And you can roll it up.
That's my thought is, it just might be one of those things that you could wear a couple times with tights and flats and be as comfortable, but it's not necessary.
But we can certainly talk to our guide and see, is there a way we could go to a service at a synagogue or a Christian church, at some place where we are.
Because I know y'all slipped away in our trip with Bill and Betty. Several of y'all went to a synagogue that morning.
Yeah, it was Orthodox synagogue, and you had the women folk in the back, and they were separated by the screen, and you had the men. Wow.
He doesn't look very Orthodox to me. I gotta say this one for my sister. This was Hal Averett's bucket trip. I mean, this was something he always wanted to do. So I told her, and I said, if you go, you take his eyes and his heart with you. And I said, we could do that not just for ourselves, but for anyone who ever would have liked to have taken their faith and added this dimension to it. So I think we want to understand that this is a real privilege and a joy, and to get to do it together makes it even more special.
I don't know if we'll have a Christian guide or a tour guide or a Jewish tour guide. I've had both. The Jewish guy knew more scripture than anybody in my group. His name was Isaac ben Ari, Isaac son of the lion. That's what that means.
So any questions y'all have in the next few weeks, just email us or text us and ask us. I'd love to get those phone numbers of whose phones will be activated in Israel, so I have a list that I can put you in a group text if there were any information. I don't know if that sheet made it around, but get something to eat, okay, and pass it around. Just make sure you put, if you're gonna, a couple may just do one number. Some of you may decide you wanna have both in case you get separated. It's just whatever you wanna do, but give us those numbers you're gonna be using. Ann has it back there. I don't know if everybody saw it. Yeah, so if you plan to have a cell phone activated, at least one, please give us the number that'll be activated, and we'd love that. Okay, I think we're done.
Okay, there's some
We didn't
goodies
sing
to
a
eat
song.
and drink. Oh, we can do that, yeah.
Which song we gonna sing?
Everybody got their notebook
What's the one we do
in the back.
The one we're doing around.
I don't do rounds.
Okay, I can do rounds. Kathy and I can do rounds.
We learned last time, Hey Venu Shalom Aleichem. That first one, we bring peace to you. Let's see if we know that one.
That's this farewell? That's not this
No,
one.
this one right here.
Oh, I wanna do that one too.
You want to lead that?
Which one?
On number one.
Shalom Aleichem? Okay, I'm a little hoarse. Kathy, you had to help me a minute.
We'll pick out some songs that go with particular places and some
Oh, yeah.
scriptures as we go day to day.
But we want to do that last one for the goodbye. I want to do that one too. We'll teach you two Hebrew ones. Now we have this Havenu Shalom Aleichem. We bring peace to you. Is that what it really means?
I've heard some people who've flown on El Al, the Jewish airlines. which they've never had a terrorist attack on El Al. But those Orthodox Jews get out of their seats, and it's time to bow for the prayers. It's doing it on the airplane. But it's the Israeli Airlines.
So you're gonna have to sing this with me, this first one, just to remind them how it goes, because it goes, Hey Venu
Shalom Aleichem. Hey Venu Shalom Aleichem. Hey Venu Shalom Aleichem. Hey Venu Shalom 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 Aleichem. And you go,
You have to hold it out, and then turn to the last song, the last page. It's Shalom Kavarim, Shalom Kavarim, Shalom Kavarim, Shalom. It's really a goodbye song. We'll probably sing it at our final worship service. It's 61. In mine, it's the next to the last page of that. Kind of starts low. Is it Kavarim?
Kavarim.
Shalom Havarim, Shalom Havarat, Shalom Shalom Lahi
glasses. It's almost too small for me to read.
Shalom Shalom, because it goes Shalom Havarim, Shalom Havarat, Shalom Shalom.